And welcome to the really big review. Other people have covered the new generation of katanas, which is generation Le Trois. And Boss, knowing that I will go in depth and trying to torture me, have sent me the Katana Artist combo. 100 something. They could have booked a SD something delay with me, a lot of delays, that would have been easy. They could have booked a video with me for one of these smaller katanas, less features, easier. Nope. They know that you're gonna get coffee and you sit there and listen to me ramble about this thing, which is what we're gonna do. It's completely impossible to show you every effect in it and everything, but we'll try. We'll go through the editor for about half an hour. So you've seen the length of this video, you clicked on it, so let's stay right here. There is a saying, everything but the kitchen sink? Leslie, is it everything but the kitchen sink or everything and the kitchen sink?
I don't know.
She does, yeah, what does she know? Everything, I think it is everything but the kitchen sink. They actually also put the kitchen sink in here. It's everything. It's probably one of the most fully featured amplifiers out there. Now, I said this about the Engel Iron Ball SE, which is true. It's got a billion features and it does everything. It does a lot as a tube amp. This does more. Everything that you want in an amp for so many situations, it can do. With, here or there, the tiniest bit of compromise, but also, given the price point, under 800 bucks for the top level amp in the range. Bang for the buck, the Katana rules. Bang for the buck, I can't think of anything that can dethrone it from its position as one of the ultimate practice, gigging, teaching, does everything in one box platforms, honestly. In German, we have a saying, eierlegende Wollmilchsau. An egg-laying wool milk pig. Meaning, it's that animal that just does everything. And, you know, we want that. It's all in one animal. One service animal. Well, the Katana is the service animal, egg-laying wool milk pig, of the amp world. We're going to get into everything. But first, I had to take that out of the box.
The bitch is there. She died of an STD, and no one came to her funeral. They did not want to be seen. Ding dong, the slave is there. His back pain, he couldn't.
And for those who don't want to sit through the whole video but saying, can you please give us some sounds? Here's some really pretty shots with some sounds. And for those who know my videos, here's me, after I've taken it out of the box, without knowing anything, putting the foot switch on, hitting some presets that were apparently in there, and noodling over an elevated gem track. So if you're still here, you want to know a lot more. So this is the Artist Edition, which means it's the big kahuna with everything. And I have pages here that, I mean, Boss tried to really educate me and sent me all this marketing material. And it isn't really just marketing material. It's just like, hey, we made this huge range of amps and they have these tiny little details. So here's a piece of paper saying, you know, what it has and what others don't. The big thing that distinguishes the Artist Edition from the other editions is in the combo. It has the Waza speaker. The others have a 12-inch speaker of nondescript origin. This is the 12-inch Waza Custom. So the speaker sounds better, I guess. Also, it has the air feel right here on the panel, and also global EQ right there on the panel as a push button. And it has the Bloom power amp, which is in the Katana Head Gen 3, in the Katana Artist Head Gen 3, and this. So the Bloom is a button right here that you can push. And honestly, it just makes the amp more better. There's more top end, more attack, equally fat. It's, when you turn it off, it sounds like your amp is all of a sudden taking a step back, going back to its more tame character. So honestly, you want the Bloom to be always there. That's not a digital thing, because obviously the Katana is a digital amp with Class AB power amp, which I think most or none of the competition has, which is why it sounds pretty damn good. None of it's tube. It's digital with Class AB. Most of the competition has Class D, and that just sounds a bit not so, it's more like, okay, if you want technical terms. And that's also why Boss recommends, as you can see right here, to be insane and crank the master up. So I have it right now at 0.5 watts, which is no watts at all, except point something. It's pretty damn loud. So I'm not going to go to half or max with the master right there, but when you crank the master, you're actually pushing that Class AB into a range where it's doing its thing. It's an actual, you know, analog power amp, and that means it sounds better. Of course, there's resonance and presence, so that's low end and high end for the power amp, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Furthermore, what's new? Let's look at the amplifiers. There's acoustic. We're not going to try this out because we're not insane in this video, but you can play acoustics through it if you so choose. There's clean. There's pushed, which is new. That's oh my God, my Sherman's coming out. That's a edge of breakup-y thing and a bit more. Then there's crunch for those rhythms. There's lead for your medleys and then brown for apparently even more dense high-end stuff. And you have, as always, a variation button, which means there's actually 2 variations of each. I tested that, and the variation is rather subtle. So are those 12 amp types? Technically, maybe, but are they really very different? I don't know. I would see the 6 and then slight variations of these. You, of course, have gain and volume, and as I said, the Bloom, which we really want on most of the time, because that's the great thing about the Artist. Then you've got bass, middle, treble, and you've got a contour button, and that lights up in 3 different colors. I already said, which will come later in my editor video, how to set up which of the 4 different contour curves are hidden behind the colors. You can set that up yourself. But also, Boss, while you're doing green and red, difficult for people to see who are colorblind, who cannot discern between green and red. Maybe red and blue would have been a better idea. Just saying, little hint there to make it more accessible for some people with some disabilities. So those are 3 different EQ curve contours. You've got a booster, which can be boosts and overdrives and fuzzes and all those that you want. Turning it on by going above 0, all the way 0 is off, and then you kick that in, and you have 3 different ones. So this could be a boost, this could be a distortion, this could be a fuzz. And you determine that in the app. So each preset, of which you have 4 on this, is not one sound. It's a whole rig of amp and a whole bunch of effects, and 3 of each actually, which you could choose with presets or probably your foot switch. I have a foot switch on the floor. The GA, don't ask me all the other things, where you have your 4 presets, direct access to the effects. Don't know how to switch to the other colors. There's probably, oh, there's control 1, 2. I don't even know. You can literally do anything you want with this, and all of it is definable in the app, as we will see later. That's boost. The top one here is mod. And yet again, you've got 3 different pedals, Boss type pedals, digital versions of them, hiding behind it. Same thing for FX, 3 different ones, which can be a huge variety of things, from tremolo to whatever. You've got a delay, turn that off, but it's not a delay, it's actually 3 delays, whatever you want. On reverb, turn it back on, you have, again, 3 different reverbs, but the interesting thing is for those is, each can be defined whether it's a reverb and delay combination, or reverb, or just a delay. So you could have 2 delays behind each other, or a delay and a reverb, or a delay and a reverb. You'll see it much clearer later in the app. Of course, there's a tap button for tempo. Now we're going to jump over here. We have a solo section, which is pretty damn cool. And you can turn that on. And now all of a sudden you have, it's also a dual function. You have a delay, but it's a different delay for your solo. So you could be on whatever setting you are, you're rhythming it away, and all of a sudden you kick in your solo, and then it goes to a higher level right here, and kicks in a delay. So it's a pretty much built-in solo channel with its own tap tempo. Pretty nifty. Never seen this implemented this way. Resonance and presence is your power amp, low and high end, and then of course your master. Here we got 2 banks, bank A, bank B. Pretty noisy, but there is actually a noise gate that you can enable in the app, which isn't enabled apparently on any of these. That's why we've got some, high gain noisiness. It's not noisy, it's just as noisy as a high gain amp is. So you got 2 banks apparently of 4. And then panel. Panel means whatever I'm actually doing here. And they can easily saved. And as I said, you have complete control with the foot switch. You can tailor the foot switch to anything you want. But actually, if you look in the back, there's so many features here. The foot switch can have 2 expression inputs. So you can have 2 expression pedals on the stage for volume and wah, for mix and whatever you want to define. But you can also add a 3rd expression pedal, 3 expression pedals, to this, or switch it to expansion, a foot control 2, or a GAFC link. So you can actually put another foot controller in here that controls even more stuff. So it gives you additional foot switches. When it comes to you being in charge of how you want your rig to be defined, Boss goes way overboard. Always do. They don't make it easy, they make it super complex, but they give you all the choices. Freedom! You know what I mean. Freedom! 2 delays. Moving over here. Line out. So right now that's on custom, and I set that up, and right now this should be a SM57, and that should be a ribbon. And this airfield thing technically means I can move the mic around anywhere I want and add some ambience to make it really sound like this cab in a space. No IRs, no different cabs, no cab simulation that goes further other than it's this one, technically. And you can move the mic back and forth and left and right. And you can add a bit of ambience and pre-delay to the ambience. We're going to see that when we're hearing direct sounds. That is in the editor section later. That's on custom. But then there's also a record setting, which is kind of a predetermined direct sound. Nothing you can do about it. It's just a sound. You can see nothing you can do here. And then blend is probably between record and live has a lot more top end for some reason. Don't quite know why. I don't quite understand the need for live, blend, and record when custom is already a mic that you can define. It is only one mic, however. And again, not IRs or any of that stuff. I wish it was a combination of two mics, but we'll get really into the airfield sound and that section, which has been added to the editor later. Over here, that is something that's also having this on the amp is special for the artist edition. You can define all this apparently for the other amps, but only in the software, not on the amp. Here you have global EQ. You can determine where that sits in the chain and all that stuff. And there's also 3 different settings. So you could really have a graphic or a parametric EQ that is different on green, different on red, different on amber, or turn it off if you really wanted to shape the sound of this amp. And you can control it right there, likely also somehow with a foot switch. Standby means bye-bye, we don't hear anything. And you right now, sitting right next to it, I don't want half and max. That's going to kill me, especially with the master this high up. Over here, also pretty special for this edition, we have the cab resonance. More vintage, more modern, and deep. It's subtle. Don't expect this to all of a sudden sound like 3 completely different speakers, but there are subtle differences between the 3, and obviously we're gonna have to explore that. And if you think we're done, no, we're not. The amp has a back. Can you now tell why it's a massive review in the back? Speaker outs. Yes, you can have external speakers. It's connected to the internal 8 ohm. Pull that, plug it into something else. 16 ohm and 16 ohm. So 2 different 16 ohm speakers can be connected at the same time. MIDI in for any kind of foot switch that you want. I have the GAFC connected, of course. Expression pedal can also be plugged in directly into the amp if you don't want to plug it into the GAFC, which I have on the floor. USB is USB-C. It also carries audio, which means you can have this amp used as a audio interface, go directly into the computer and run audio through the USB. But it is USB-C, and that is being used for the editor as well. We'll get more into how that's implemented later. Effects loop, which is not on the very, very smallest of the Katanas, as far as I know. Nope, but it starts with the 50EX. So they usually have effects loops. Stereo expand is on right now. We're going to talk about that in a sec, which is very cool. Power amp in is if you have a modeler. So you can run your Katana, you use your Katana in rehearsal, and you do many things with the Katana, all good. But maybe sometimes you want to take your quad cortex and make it loud through a Class AB power amp in 100 watts. Well, then you plug into the power amp in, and then all that you have on the front panel is the master volume. And all of a sudden you have a speaker and power amp in Class AB to make your modelers loud. That is nifty. Stereo phones, that is now stereo before it was mono. Aux in, oh, it's a tiny little plug for aux in. And right here, that's a box that I had to screw onto it. That is the Bluetooth module. Now, you have to buy that separately, and I recommend when you buy this amp, just buy it with it. I don't know how much it is. I'm going to say 49 bucks maybe. But buy it because that gives you Bluetooth audio to the amp to noodle along with your tracks, to have a intro playing live, and treat this as a PA speaker, but it also gives you Bluetooth editability with an app. So you can program this with a mobile device. That makes sense. Wherever my mobile device is. Well, we're not going to do that, but you can. And that is awesome. You're on stage, you want to quickly really change one of the boosts, and you can if you have your phone with you. So get this. It actually screws in, and then it's toyed like a Teuger on the amp, also Bluetooth audio, pretty cool. Now, the reason why they have this as a separate thing is because this is the same module that you can use for their drum machines, for other amps, for so many different Boss devices. And I think it should just be pre-installed in all of them, but that way they might be able to drive the price point down 20, 30 bucks, which is enticing, and some people might not want the Bluetooth. So I'm going to count this amp as it has Bluetooth, but you're in charge whether you want it or not. So thank you, Boss, for sending that with the amp. I don't think we're done yet. And then we've got the line out. with a quarter-inch cable, line out with XLR, and a ground lift. Line outs are mono. Boo-hoo. That's stereo. That's stereo. The effects are stereo, but why isn't there a stereo XLR? That is really one of the very few things I critique on this amp, which is so fully featured that it's ridiculous. So let's go over who's playing this. This thing is 756, 769, whatever, around that euro at the moment. 112, massively loud, all effects built in, flexible effects chain, loads of different amps, Bloom feature, air feel, global EQ, cab resonance. Buy the foot switch with it, foot switchability. Buy the Bluetooth thing with it. I mean, then we're probably at, let's say, maybe, let's say 900. Yeah, probably around that maybe. Solid build. Corners on the corners. I mean, even though they're not pretty, many companies are now omitting the corners. But you know what? It's a tool. You want the freaking ugly corners because you're going to bump it into shit. So, yeah, I just had a conversation at Marshall and they showed me these beautiful designs for new things they're working on. I said, you know what? It's prettier without the corners, but the corners are telling people this is to be used on stage, not in a living room. So, corners, please. I'm going to say it. Line 6 power cabs, no corners. Who needs that? The power cab is supposed to be on stage and to be used with your model or whatever, with your Helix. I mean, just put freaking corners on them. And the ones I had from them were already messed up on the corners. It's literally everything. You have this for teaching. You're going on stage, you put your model into it, Axe effects, whatever, and make it loud. Use this in rehearsal. Done. Go on a small stage, blast from the stage, done. Go DI out into the front of house. The DI sounds are good enough. Are they as good as it gets? Are they as good as a profiler? Are they as good as your Axe effects, Quad Cortex, whatever? No, they're not. The thing is $800. And you get so much for it. There is a reason that why the Katanas are still the king of this type of amp, and I don't think anyone can rival it. I have reviewed the Catalyst, not the updated Catalyst from Line 6, because the Catalyst had issues, usability issues. Sound-wise, it couldn't rival this. And now there's a Gen 3. I honestly would tell any company asking me, what do you think what we should do when it comes to these types of amps? I would say, don't do it, because the Katana exists. Competing with the Katana is a fool's errand. Yes, they're paying me to make this video because it's shit ton of work, but that's not why I'm saying this. It's true. Does it sound like a tube amp? No, it doesn't. It sounds pretty damn close. It's a very worthy approximation of what a tube amp sounds like. It can sound like a tube amp because it's digital into a Class AB. And with all these offers, cannot rival a tube amp. But it is pretty damn close. It's pretty damn fun. Now, let's go to this stereo expand. If you already have a Katana, get this. It's so damn cool. Why? Well, if you already have a Katana, then you can use a stereo expand out and switch it to stereo expand. Go into a second one, like this Katana Gen 200. I think that's what it is. Katana 100 Mark II, yes. And go into the power amp return, which now only enables the thing to do master volume. And then you're playing notes, let's say with a Vola JC guitar. Crank up the master on this. And you'll never want to leave this spot. You sitting right in the middle of it. On stage, ridiculous. Put this somewhere else so your drummer can hear you. Don't sell your old katana, just buy another one. I'm not shitting you, it's worth it. That's the new pushed mode, by the way. And it's clean, but it's got some... A million times worth it. If you have any kind of katana that has a stereo expand function, you might want to do that. But of course, I turn that off. We're going to play some things, then we're going to go into the editor, then we're going to use a modeler into it, and then we are very done. I'm not going to go into the Bluetooth thing. It's just too much. How are you hearing this? Now, honestly, I played some things into a looper earlier, put these mics in front of it, listen back. My mind was blown. What you're going to hear, hopefully, if I did my job right, is mind-blowing. SM57 right here. That's an AEA R92 ribbon microphone. We actually have a microphone camera. Yes, it's decadent, but we love that shit. So SM57, slightly off-center. AEA R92 ribbon. Thank you to Manuel Clem from the distributor for sending that over. That combination, I mean, that sounds like an SM57. And you mix that in and it got so huge. But then I have the AEA R88 active, which is a stereo ribbon mic, which is about 2 meters away from the amp, right over there. And that captures a stereo room sound. And I'm mixing that in. And if that doesn't give you a feel of that amp in the room and how gigantic it is, then I'm doing my job wrong. So, clean. I'm gonna go to panel. Just gonna have some reverb. What's behind that? I don't know. I would have to look in the app. Is that spring? I don't know. You could, of course, program it so that amber is always spring, or green is always spring, or whatever. That's up to you. Oh, obviously, there's a huge library of download-ready katana sounds. All Generation 2, I think, katana sounds and presets are compatible with Gen 3. Gen 3 isn't compatible with 2, but 2 is compatible with 3. I know there are many katana specialists. There are many people on katana message boards and all that stuff that know a billion things more than I do about this. And I will say things wrong in this video. Please forgive me, okay? I cannot be a specialist on absolutely everything. I really try to give you the right information. There might be a tiny detail wrong here or there, so please forgive. I'm going to turn the bloom off. There's more, and there's more. It's, why would you turn that off? I'm going and turn that down. So we have the tiniest bit of reverb. And I will simply go through the amps. I mean, acoustic, yeah. Oops, oopsie. Probably okay if you strum an acoustic with a piezo. Variation. Variation 2 clearly has a mid push. Nice. Pushed. There's some resonance in the cab right now. Something is a bit rattling. Slight difference, but that pushed, which is new, is just... That's how easy you just boost it. Moving on to the crunch. The right amount of aggressive without being too bitey. That's a bit too bitey for me. Okay. Of course. Let's see. Also, something you could do is go to your pedal board, which you might still have, and kick on the Troop Screamer. Let's try this with the clean. And you know what? That works rather nicely if you got a Galaxy and a Troop Screamer or an Archer. That's a loud-ass pedal. Okay, moving on. Lead. Now, how easily did I build myself a very, very defined cutting and singing lead sound? Oopsie, so easy. Here, variation 1 is more mid-focused. And then we're gonna go to brown, which should be all the gain and all the density we ever need. It's on 0.5 watts and it's killing me. Yeah. That's the two variations there. Again, slight differences, not massive. Really like that pushed. It's nice. Again, with the bloom, I mean, let's go to brown. So that's a analog power amp something. And that's the reason why you should spend the extra money and get the artist. Honestly, it just makes the amp better. Also, the speaker is better than the other ones. But we're still not talking about one is 300 and the other one is 2,000. It's all below 800, which is beyond fair if you ask me. I mean, yeah, I have super hot equipment. I've got some of the best amps in the world. And can you compete with those? In terms of amp tone, no. But it's so damn close. It's so damn flexible. And it's fun. And it does the job for so many different uses. What else are we doing? I don't know. Let's check out what effects are here, I guess. Okay, look, I'm sorry, I'm having fun. So with the effects, you could really, with the foot switch, I can now turn these on and off if I choose. So the delay is not up, but now delay is up. So you literally build yourself your own pedal board right there and with the footy switchy thing. Or you go to different presets here and you've got so the panel counts as a preset 5. Okay, you get the idea? And with each of those, of course, you can go into the other layer and turn effects on and off. That solo thing, somehow I can probably enable that with a foot switch too, but let's find out. Let's turn that effect off. And the delay, why not? So there's a delay and a level when you kick in the solo. Convenient. We're gonna get into the line out in the editor video. I do not want to crank it up higher. I like to turn off to standby. Yeah, I can show you that, but I'm not gonna make it louder. I'm not insane. Global EQ. We'll probably get to some more crunchy sound. Let's see. They all kind of sound the same because they're not really yet dialed in. So you could dial them in that one of those global EQs is really pushing the low end, but not the top end. You can have any kind of curve that you want, and you've got off and 3 at your disposal. Let's check out the cab resonance, one of the last things. Oh no, there's more to check out. Before we go into the editor. So right now we're on modern. Vintage. Deep has a nice top end. Vintage sounds as if the top end is more subdued, a little bit blanketed. And no, modern has the balance. Vintage sounds blanketed, and deep sounds as if everything is pushed, not just the low end, but also the top end. But subtle differences. I mean, the blanketing on the vintage is probably actually, some of those sounds are very bitey. And I think that's probably a good idea to go to vintage to smooth out that top end. Let's now go into half an hour with the editor. Okay, now we're going to spend a considerable amount of time in the editor, but I think don't skip that, because this is going to give you a much better idea of what is behind the front panel and the different colored lights of this amp. Looking at the amp by itself, fiddling around with it, seeing the options is already pretty impressive, and there's a lot to discover without ever opening the app, which should be, I haven't seen it yet, but it should be a representation of the editor we're looking at now in mobile format. And of course, you need the Bluetooth adapter to do that. But seeing the editor, which apparently has been reworked and made better, really gives you a great understanding of what the amp can do. Full disclosure, Boss is still not the master of interfaces. We're going to see why. And also, updating the amp, I had to update the amp to run the editor. Now, the editor has to be installed on a Mac. It's an installation, not just a little thing that opens. Others can do that. You need to install a USB driver, not necessary for some other product, so I don't know why. And also, the amp had to be updated, which for other products simply is a little button in the editor. You open the editor, it says, oh, it can't work with the product needs to be updated. Update, and then 20 seconds later, your product's up to date. Not so with Boss, as always. You need to download some text files or bin files or whatever. Do a button press combination on the amp to put it in a hard drive kind of a state so the computer can see it as a drive. Then you move those files onto the amp, unplug the USB, the amp goes into update mode, then you turn it on and off. So as always, Boss makes it way too complicated. I don't know why they can't take a cue from some other companies and just make it super user-friendly. Boss and software, difficult, but it does work. Now, let's look at the editor. It has been updated. I have never worked with it, so I don't know how bad it was before. What I can tell you is that it resizes, but it doesn't resize the size of it. So right now it takes about a quarter of my Mac screen, and I might want things to be bigger, but there isn't a go to 150%, 200% like a lot of interfaces do now. It is what it is in terms of its size. And it's not super pretty, but it is a fair representation of what you actually see on the amp. So we're going to go through all of this. This is, of course, the knobs on the amp. If I grab my mouse and drag, it's way too fast. It is not fine control in any way. So what I recommend is you use the mouse wheel, and you can see I have quite a bit more fine control right there. All the sounds, by the way, that you're hearing will be recorded with the XLR DI out. So this kind of, when we go back into the other room, we actually don't need to check out this amp with the direct out, because that's what you're hearing right here. So I'm not miking it here. This is XLR out. Something's pumping. Might be a compressor that's on. Ah, no, that's the effects. We're going to turn that off. That's probably a tremolo. And that's going, by the way, out of the XLR. As I said, that's mono. You can also use it as an audio interface and go just with USB directly into your system. You have everything on the amp represented right here. Buttons for the variation, the bloom knob, contour. I don't know if the bloom actually gets recorded because it's a power amp feature, so I don't know if that goes out of the recording out. But as you can see, everything is right here on the amp. So you turn that on, and you can go through the different effects, turn that off, pretty much like on the amp. All the way to the left is off. And you can see on the effects page here, all the different effects that have been selected for this preset. And that is of course, different per preset. So for the booster, we got tube scream and overdrive and a different overdrive. or 2 overdrives. Let's go, instead of overdrive, we're gonna go blues drive. And I'll show you why that's relevant in a bit. Oh, I'll show you. So, here 3 modulations, and those can of course be selected on the amp by pushing that button, and they can be selected right here in the editor. Same thing for effects, which are, you know, different things. We got an octave there, tremolo. We'll just go through this one preset to show you. There's different delays, there's a tab for it. And then there's the reverb, which can be for the 3 different presets here. Reverb, delay and reverb, or just delay. So you could actually have a second delay instead of a reverb assigned to the reverb knob. So let me quickly go through these. With this Ibanez Don't Ask Me RG something with Fishmans. I'm on acoustic, I don't want to be on acoustic. Clean. No idea. I'm gonna keep that on because it's better. So, we turn the booster on, and now I've got these 3. Careful with the volume, of course. That you'd have to take the main volume down, which is... Don't quite know where that actually is here. The main volume for the DI out. But if I switch to the next one, that's a tube screamer type thing, and that's a blues stereo type thing. And why these are relevant is because I actually, if you look at the chain, uploaded little images, which is now something you can do. No clue why Boss didn't preload images of their own pedals, so you could literally upload anything. You could upload a picture of your dog if you wanted to, but I uploaded 2. A blues driver, SD1, and that's now a tube screamer type. It's just a, you know, picture. But you can do that yourself, and I'll show you where. So we're going to go back, we're going to turn mod on. Here we go. And you can also see that change right here. If you wanted to edit that, you go to mod, and there is your edit for the Phase 90, for the DC30, and for the Univibe. That's how you do this on these individual pages right here. Going back, gonna turn this down, turn effects on, and we've got a heavy octave. Now the thing is, each of these drop-down menus gives you a wealth of options. Look at this. These are all just effects, right? So you could put anything there. In terms of the drives, look at this. Look at how many different drives we have. Fuzzes, clones, boosts, everything. Of course, digital representations of them, but that's pretty impressive. Now delay, we're going to crank that up. And tap. Dum, dum, dum. So right now we're on tape echo. Okay, and we're gonna do reverb. Let's crank that up a bit. So we got different options there. For the second one, let's go to delay and reverb with Spring and SDE 3000, that sounds killer. And you have a tab for that. And we could only have delay on the third one. That gives you a second delay, okay? And you could, of course, have the first one on 2. for pretty damn cool sounds. So let's keep that on first one. Here's the chain, and you can move certain elements of the chain to other positions, but they're, let's say, slightly predetermined. So the part of the chain turns on when you turn it on. And now if I want to move my booster, you can see I can move it here or here. Somehow by, here we go. It has to turn into an empty circle. So I can move that booster to certain places. Let's turn that off again. Let's turn the mod on. And that mod can be placed to two different places. Pre or post booster or drive. There you go. Same thing for the effects. That can be placed before or after the amp. Okay. EQ, there is one before and after the amp anywhere. There's an EQ1 and EQ2. There's your send and return, which could be placed before your time-based or after your amp. And the delay and the time-based stuff cannot be moved around. Speaker, of course, is at the end, and you cannot change the speaker. There is no different speaker sounds, even for the DI out, and there's also no loading IRs or any of that. What it is what you get. It is limited as a DI solution, but it's also so much in one box. Yes, that's a compromise we're making compared to other DI solutions, but it's really meant as a you go front of house. So, I mean, I think we can live with that. Here's the booster, which you can turn on here or not, and then you determine which one you want, or you click on, you turn this on, click on the next one, and you can actually pick them right there by doing that. Same thing for the mod, turn it on, and then you can pick which of the 3 variations you're editing. So you can do that for each preset. Effects, delay, delay 2, reverb. And here's the whole solo section. And in the solo section, you determine a different EQ. Is that EQ before the amp or after the amp? So pre or post amp. How much level do you want from your solo boost? And how do you set up your solo delay, including a tap knob? And of course, that solo section is also represented here. Can turn that on and off. It is also on the amp with knobs and a tap button. So you can get a solo boost and a delay just by hitting solo on your foot switch or actually on your amp if you wanted that. Now the contour is the knob on the contour, the contour is the knob on the EQ section. And that is also 3 different settings, which kind of changes the general EQ curve, let's call it that. And you can say off, you can say contour 1 is type 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is more Fenderish, I think. 2 is a different one, and 3 is a different one. So you can actually pick which one of the 4 contours are on the 3 variations. Pedal effects. That's more for wah-wahs and pitch. There's actually a pitch right here. There's a wah. There's a pitch bend. If we turn that on. Yeah, if you wanted pitch bendy whammy type stuff, that gets set up there. EQ. There's 2. Before or after the amp, and you can pick between a parametric or a graphic EQ. So EQ1 and EQ2. And you can set both of them to whatever you want. Noise gate is not selectable on the amp. I wish there was a button for it, but there isn't. But you can select it in here. Send return can also be post, pre, different things, serial, parallel. It is very, very customizable. And this is your foot switch assign, where you kind of tell the thing what you want on your foot switches, whether they go to presets, drive, whatever, solo levels, you can kick these things in. You can also have an expanded foot switch and determine what the expression inputs do. So if you want complete foot control, you have that, but you also have control over what they do. This is typical Boss. Boss gives you everything in the kitchen sink, but that means going in, you have to spend the time figuring it out and, you know, being able to handle it. cap resonance, which is a switch on the front, but that can also be selected right here. That's really what comes out of your cap. I don't think that affects the DI out. Okay, so global EQ also has 3 different settings, which cannot be set here. That gets set in system. We'll get to that in a sec. Here's your librarian for your, all your different presets, and you can do different live sets. Oh, and have, this is my setup and my presets for gig 1. And then you're playing your metal gig and you bring this thing home and you just put a whole different live set on there, which is cool. And you just create a new one up there. Now the tone exchange, I don't quite understand what's going on here. I thought there were like a million different presets, but I'm not logged into it and signed up for it. And so maybe that's why I'm not seeing that. But you can load, either there aren't many Gen 3 tones, which I can't imagine, but you can definitely have access to Gen 2 tones. And there should be thousands. I don't know why I'm not seeing them, but they're there. Probably on the website. So we're going to go to system settings. Now this is interesting. These are my line out settings. And on the front of the amp, I have record, blend, and live. And these seem to be presets because I can't really edit them. So... well, I'm on custom. Here we go. Much more in your face, much more top endy. So these are 3 presets that you set on the amp, but you can't really fiddle with the settings here. If you really want to fiddle with the mic settings, you have to go to custom. And there are 2 different ones, mic 1, mic 2. There are not 2 mics at the same time. These are variations that you select with the line out button, and it's green and red. Little tip for boss. Don't make things green and red. You might want to think about your color LEDs to make it more colorblind accessible. This is not a massive critique. I'm just pointing it out, and maybe next time they pay attention to that. So M1 and M2 is green and red. If you are colorblind, you have no idea what you're set on. So on 1, right now we've got a dynamic 57. There are 5 mics, and you would think that you can move the mic around. Boss in the user interfaces. No, you can't move the mic around. You have to take the mic position slider and use the sliders. Why? Why can't I just go and take the mic representation and just move it around? Wouldn't that be so much easier than taking the slider? This makes so little sense to me. Okay, but let's go. What we're gonna do is gonna turn the reverb off, so we can really hear this, and delay as well. Back to system. We're going to get the ambience up. It's okay. It's a little bit of a room. Nothing beats the UA room. We all know that. It's not bad. So let's move the mic towards the middle and really close. The further you go, the more ambience you're gonna get. Now for mic 2, let's go to the ribbon. Of course, I would want a 57 and a ribbon, but can't have that. It's either or. Dynamic 421. Condenser 451. and so on and so on. So there is an air feel thing. It's nice that they call it that. It's nice that you can move mics around. Is it where the competition is? Is it where DI solutions are? Is it where a torpedo would be? No. It's the one cab. That's it. And you have one mic. It is air feel. It does add ambience and air. It is rudimentary. However, everything in the kitchen sink, and it's at least there. Of course, this would be global and apply to all of your presets. So power amp in settings, that is if I'm running a modeler into it, which, you know what, we really shouldn't be doing, but I might be doing. I might try it. Global EQ, that's where we are. So there are 3 different settings for the global EQ. And you can determine whether it's a parametric EQ or a graphic EQ, and whether that's for the input, for the output, for the line output, or for the speaker out. SP out? I don't know what SP out means. And that gets determined with a little pushy knob on the power section, which of course is scalable and all that. I wonder where the volume is. So the DI out volume is channel volume. That's okay, not master. Moving on, power control. That's the big switch on the amp. Different USB settings, loopback functions, MIDI channels, and ridiculous foot switch settings. Again, backing up your data. Here is the icon setting for every different, look at the different effects that they have. For every different effect block, you can actually determine your own little graphic. And I did the blues driver in the SD1. Device settings, of course, I picked the owner's manual and version, blah, blah. So this is the big air feel thing. It's a bit of a letdown. It does give you a bit of air feel though. Gotta say that. So that being said, let's just go to the tone exchange and listen to some sounds. Ambient clean. Double click and you have to wait a bit for it to actually register in the amp. Of course, that would also mean that there's different things under the hood now if I go and change the variations. So the DI tones are not the best of the best compared to some of the best modelers out there. for under 800 bucks. They are up to par with modelers in the, let's say, sub 600 euro range, but that would be a modeler that's just a modeler, not in a full amp with a 112, 100 watts and all that stuff. So I'm going to say that they are more than adequate to go DI instead of using a mic in front of your amp. Are they absolutely fine to record demos and stuff? Are they absolutely fine to record an album with and no one would ever critique it? Absolutely. I've recorded albums with Pod 2s and nobody gave a shit. Are they the best in the world in terms of the DI sound? No. But they're fine. They're absolutely fine. I have no issue with it. For what you're paying, for the whole package, for what it's going to be used at, these are okay. I mean, if you have a kick-ass tube amp with a mic in front of it, you probably want to use that. If you have like a dedicated modeler that does one thing, like anything of like the UA pedals or something like this, they will get you more realistic results. But it's a different use. They don't have a cab and all that stuff. For an all-in-one box that's supposed to be affordable and super convenient, I have no issue with the tones. So now I cannot do anything on the front panel anymore because I pulled the cable out and I plugged into power amp in. So the only thing I have available now is apparently the airfield line out and the master volume. Because now I'm using it as a power amp, class AB, and speaker for my modeler, which is in this case the Enigmatic from UA. And there's no reverb, there's no anything. That's just a dumbly thing in pretty much perfection. If that's what you want to do, I just turn that into kind of a dumble. Of course, I have the speaker simulation off because I have a speaker right here. And I'm using the speaker simulation in there. Use a pedal board with some kind of modeler or just a modeler or X effects or whatever you want in here. And Bob's your uncle, that works. If Frank's your uncle, that'll still work. I highly recommend if you have a Katana, keep it and use it as a stereo expand for this. Now they ask me, do you want the head or the combo? I feel the Katana is strong as a combo. Would I want it as a head? I kind of feel like if I'm carrying around a head, I want a tube amp and a pedal board. If I'm going through all that hassle with a speaker and all that stuff, I might want to be more complex and really have hassle. This, as an all-in-one wonder, honestly, leaves very little to be desired. In terms of power, it'll kill you if you turn that up. DI out is acceptably good. Are there better ones? Yes. Is it in its price range? Great, yes. Is it flexible enough? Yes. Will it play the gig? Yes. Cap resonance, nice gimmick to really tweak subtly. All the effects, brilliant. Are some of the effects that you would throw on your board more an individual expression of you and your playing and your musicality? Yes. But not in a cover band. You can still express yourself with a combination of virtual effects in here. I would say this is obviously not for everyone, but that's actually not true. You turn this into your amp for your practice room, for your rehearsals. Right before the gig, you bring the big rig and test that out. but you've got most of the rig that you need in here. And have this in the car when your actual rig goes down. If I played in a cover band and I have to have a variety of things as easy as it gets with the DI out to front of house, honestly, I'd play the Katana. And let me tell you this little story. So we were in the Philippines. We arrived by plane. We were very, very, very tired. And there was Carlos Asensio, Andy Ferris, and Colin Scott. And we went to this seedy little street bar in Cebu. We were pretty scared, but we had local people take us. They were like, okay, if we get raped, they at least know who did it. I don't know. And so there was a band playing, and they did like 90s covers. And I jokingly said, imagine you like watch these people, us. I mean, not that I thought they would. Imagine you watch these YouTube channels and you look up and all of a sudden you're in the middle of Cebu and that's where these YouTube channels are. And that's what happened. The guy looked up and said, that's Andy. All the presets of my Katana, they're from you. So it's a great solution for the teacher, the cover band, the guy on a budget, the guy who wants everything, the person still looking to find their rig, trying out effects for at home to practice with, as a backup amp, as your main amp. It could do the trick, and you might not want anything else. If making music and playing the right notes is what you're after, and gear is like, I need something that works, this works. You want something for your modeler. Well, this will still be with you if you get a kick-ass modeler because it'll make it loud. You want your pedal board to be amplified. This will do it. I cannot think of a reason, as a professional musician, not to have a Katana in your arsenal. Now, I do sell a lot of the gear that I get for the reviews because I cannot possibly keep everything. Why do you think that Katana Mark II 100 is still here? Because it's a great tool to have for whatever comes my way. That's in the back of the room, a little bit dusty, but it's there. Do you think I'm going to sell it now? Because I have this. Stereo expand. Under 800 bucks with foot switch and the Bluetooth, I'm going to say, I don't know, maybe around 900. So you're under $1,000, and I cannot think of any other product, and I'm not saying this because I'm paid for this video, I cannot think of any other product that does what this Katana Artist Generation 3 something does. I can think of an H90 and a Soldano and a pedal board and other things combined. I can build a rig for 10 grand that does what this does. It'll do it better. With an aux and all that stuff, I can absolutely do that. But at 800 bucks, it's the king of all-in-one combos. And I fully, absolutely mean that. And y'all have played a Katana, seen one, heard one on stage, you know I'm right. Compare it to anything on the market, you know I'm right. And I dare other companies to send me their stuff so I can do a comparison, you know, give my 2 cents on their product. Now I'm never going to get jobs again because Boss made a great product. Great. Yeah, it's the king. This one especially. I'll put links below. Please use them. Thank you, Boss. What's happening here? There's hinter the couch. And the animals, that's their part. At the end. Go.
and with my mother's thighs I bless the seven